Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. Tanbir Grover is an accomplished and popular retail leader, recently drawn back to the retail industry that he's called home for so many years. Now, after nearly a year as the Chief Marketing and Digital Officer at Canadian pet supply retailer PetValu, Tanbir has a host of insights to share on PetValu's omnichannel brand positioning within the greater scope of retail marketing and e-commerce. Tanbir returns to the Voice of Retail to talk about retail marketing trends, the opportunities on PetValu's horizon, and what it's like to actualize the potential of a brand in a highly competitive space and build an agile team during the COVID era.
Our stores, our community impact are a big part of our play. Our ACEs, which like I mentioned, the animal care enthusiasts, are a big part of what we bring to the table as experts that really resonates with our TPLs. I think the other thing we want to bring is choice and convenience. And when I say choice and convenience is the different ways you can shop. So click and collect. You want to ship it to your door, we'll be able to do that. And really start building out some of those omni-channel capabilities.
Let's listen in now. Tanbir, welcome back to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Michael. It's good to be back. It's been a long time since we've connected.
You know, I think the last time you and we did an interview in person. Imagine that.
Can you believe that?
IRL. Well, this is the next best thing. And I should say, welcome back to retail, because you left us as an industry for a little bit. We'll talk about a little bit about that. And then you're back. So it's kind of a double welcome back. So it's a real treat.
No, much appreciated.
Yeah, it's a real treat to get you back on the mic, and you got a great new gig, and I want to talk all about that. But, you know, let's jump in. So for those who may have not heard our earlier podcasts, and I encourage them to back in and listen to that as well, tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and what you do now at PetValu.
Sure. So, currently I'm the Chief Marketing and Digital Officer at PetValu. Been doing this job since November of 2020, so started here during COVID. Prior to this, I took that small hiatus outside of retail and went to the Cooperators Group, where I was leading up the digital team there and really looking at how we would digitize the idea of selling insurance and even providing levels of service around some of the other products other than insurance. And then previous to that, I'd spent probably the 12 years of my life in retail. And, as you and I have always discussed,
Yep.
A majority of that at Lowe's, and then a stint over at Hudson's Bay. And then prior to that, a small stint over at Sears, where I kind of learned the e-commerce chops and became sort of more finessed in the e-commerce business over time. So it's been a lot of retail experience with that small little break for insurance, and then to PetValu, which I think has been a really great fit for me, just based on size and scale, and the opportunity to lean into the marketing side and round out my skill set, given that I've done digital for the most part.
Yeah, right on. And I should mention that you and I intersected kind of boats passing in the night, so to speak, at HBC. What an interesting world HBC is today, spinning off their e-com and their store stuff. So maybe you and I can talk about that over a cocktail someday.
Yeah, very fascinating for sure to sort of see that and see the battle that's sort of, unfolding to what I'd say is the retail sort of norms or survival or taking a chance. And I think, for whatever choices they're making, they're making mindful choices, which I really think are important. And, they're trying to do what's best for their shareholders and their customers and their people. Yeah. So we'll watch it and hopefully support it, given the iconic brand and the history it's had in Canada for sure.
Let's get back to you. Let's talk about PetValu. It's obviously a name that anyone listening would know of, but they may not know all of the scope and scale and the banners and where do you have stores? Are you international? All that stuff. So give us the 411.
So yeah, for sure. So PetValu has 600 stores coast to coast, and not in Quebec. So coast to coast with an asterisk, I'd say, but with e-commerce obviously selling into Quebec. It's a small format type of store. So we've got 600 locations and a very franchise focused effort around it. So over 300 of our stores are franchise based as well. As I mentioned, a small footprint. So it's curated product selection, really, really focused on our expertise and what our ACEs, who are our animal care experts in our stores, what we call them, really what the service level they can deliver to. And then the experience itself. I mean, the good things about being very local and very expertise is that you can become a very quick neighborhood shop. Yeah. And a very quick destination for all of your pet needs, from your food to your treats, all the way to your crates and toys and all the fun stuff that goes alongside pets.
Now, 600 stores, are they all in Canada? Do you have stores in the U.S.?
All in Canada. So, all in Canada is where we're based.
Well, and I can echo my personal experience. I have a doggo now. Got just before, not a pandemic puppy, because to be fair, we got him like before the pandemic, but just. And so now we're on the dog, and our local Pet Value at Applewood in Mississauga. They're great. I mean, they're exactly as you described them. They know their market. They know their people. And you guys got great toys, by the way. Just some really fun toys. My dog loves your toys. One of the things that I've really cherished at working at Pet Value is it's the funness of the brand. It's the ability to kind of be cheeky, be quirky, be fun, but at the same time, really try to resonate with what our customers, and we call our customers our devoted pet lovers, what our DPLs are looking for. So how does our DPL really, become the center of our marketing activities, of our merchant decisions, and how do we put them first, and then everything else surrounds them in terms of how we look at trying to solve their experience, how to deliver great experiences, but also how to solve traditional problems of what you're trying to solve for, like teeth, food, play,
lifestyle,
entertainment.
Health, play, exactly. All of those things that are part of that lifestyle of being a pet owner.
Now, are you a pet owner? Did you arrive with pets, or are you?
Well, funny enough, when I took on this role, that was one of the questions I had to ask was, I'm not currently a pet owner today because I also have 2 young kids, and at this time, and taking this job during COVID really constrained us because obviously the kids were at home for schooling. So we've kind of gone back and forth. Now, my wife's been a pet owner for almost most of her life until she got married to me. And now we're sort of in that consideration set of yes.
And she had enough on her hands with you. So basically
she had enough. Yeah. And then, with everything going on, it was like, should we do it? Let's put a pause. Let's kind of wait until post COVID. And then this will kind of come back. So the girls are very interested in becoming pet owners now. And, we may start with not a traditional dog or cat, but something even smaller or something a little bit more like a hamster or a gerbil type thing, and or even a lizard of some sort. But our approach is really, we would like to first sort of think through the responsibility, the time, and the commitment, and then figure out how to make the right decision so that we do it right.
Oh yeah, man, it's busy, and we didn't have a pet for a long. I had one when I was a kid, but it is a big commitment. I mean, they become a big part of the family, and depending on the pet you get, we've got a big German Shepherd Rottweiler. So, it's a doggo that likes its food. So you make good money from origin from me, which is a great food, by the way. Shout out to your merchants, because that's we love investing in the best products for the dog because we think it keeps them out of veterinaries.
For sure.
Keeps them out of the, and then just great play. And anyway, so why Pet Value? Listen, you've got a e-commerce, great acceleration. I got to think you could have had a choice of many great retailers in the fullness of time. What attracted you to the Pet Value opportunity? Well,
I mean, truthfully, I wasn't really even looking to leave Cooperators at the time. I got a call from Richard, who's the president and CEO of Pet Value, and he was a former boss of a boss at Lowe's.
Right.
And he had approached me about the opportunity. And one of the things that I really liked about it was the idea of growth and where the growth engine was going and where this business was he was trying to take the vision of this business. So they were going through a number of what I would call evolutions, right? One was a digital evolution where they were just starting to really lean into the digital platforms and what you and I would have called omnichannel, and still would consider omnichannel selling. But Pet Value was still really early into that space. In fact, we launched our coast to coast e-commerce business in 2021 in February. So we were further behind than some of our competitors. So I think that was a very attractive opportunity again to go again and help do a digital transformation, help build a digital platform. And my experience has been doing a lot of that. So, I seem to thrive and enjoy building those experiences and then building the teams that support that. And then the other big opportunity for me was really to lean into marketing. And, having not had a very traditional marketing background, the opportunity to go in with a digital first mindset was something that was really interesting and captivated me in many different ways to say, I have the experiences. I might not have done certain things here, and here, But you know what? If I hire the right people, I have the right team around me, and I have the right sort of acumen around what I'm trying to accomplish, really anchored in digital and then supported by others, then how can we do this as part of the overall marketing mix?
Right. So it's a big remit, though, right? I mean, and I'm seeing it more and more, this combination of marketing and e-commerce, but it's a big category. It's a broad swath, whether you've been an e-commerce expert or a marketing expert or both. Like when you think about it, do you see that as a big future for many retailers, that they put these two roles together? I
do, because part of what you and I have even chatted about is like the attribution and how it all gets played out. And ultimately, what we have to think about is what marketing and e-commerce and digital are really doing is they're really taking a more of a experiential role. They're playing that role of what is the customer's experience going to look like? How do we make that customer experience come to us? How do we make that experience come to life in our stores? And then how do we deliver that experience on the last mile or even post the store purchase? And you think about what unifies all of this of the customer experience is also a big part of that is the loyalty program. And having a robust loyalty program really allows you to do two things. One is to get the data and the analytics out of it, which you can then use to do a better job marketing, and obviously changes the dynamics of using first-party data versus a second or third-party data set. But what's more important to that even is that you're also able to engage with your customers in a different way that allows for that experience to transcend over time. And you can actually have that as a marketer, as a loyalty play or as a digital play, because a lot of those platforms are going into the digital foray now. Right.
So how are you thinking? I mean, as you said, you joined PetValu at the intersection of a great time. Certainly the category's got a big tailwind from the pandemic puppy, and you've got e-commerce growth, but it's a competitive category, right? You got lots of great competitors, lots of great retailers in the space. You got big box stores who,
absolutely,
a lot of these, I see growth in the, when I walk through a couple of local big box stores, I see the pet category getting bigger, not smaller. I mean, everybody sees the opportunity. So how does PetValu really establish itself and win? I mean, you hinted at it, the kind of smaller format, know my community. Yeah. From your perspective, what else do you bring?
So there's, I would say that our stores, our community impact are a big part of our play. Our ACEs, which I guess mentioned, the animal care enthusiasts, are a big part of what we bring to the table as experts that really resonates with our TPLs. I think the other thing we want to bring is choice and convenience. And when I say choice and convenience is the different ways you can shop. So click and collect. You want to ship it to your door, we'll be able to do that. And really start building out some of those omnichannel capabilities, thinking even about subscriptions and thinking about how we would just allow for customers to do different things that would be part of their experiential component. I think the other thing that separates us a bit from the mass merchants is also we do offer the grooming as well as the dog washing services. So that allows us to lean into that specialty service a little bit more.
Do you find that sticky with your customers, that they come back for that, while they're there, pick up
those that product? Those that value it really do value it and do want to participate in it. I think it's part of what we're always evaluating is, is it, who in our TPL segment is using it? Why are they using it? And how do we sort of optimize that service? It's one of those things where in pet specialty, it's a great thing to have, but there's different ways to serve that up.
Let's talk about marketing and marketing trends. So, when I talk to retailers coast to coast, they talk about the power of social media, particularly when stores were closed, that became the browsing vehicle, and Instagram, Snapchat, all these things. What tactics are you looking at that are particularly exciting or working for you, or you think are growth opportunities in the future?
Yeah, I think if we rewind back in time, part of what was also happening as part of my mandate was really to transform some of the marketing to become more digitally savvy and more inclined. Traditionally, we were a much more traditional print shop. We did a little bit of TV in Q4. Had a sort of less of a media mix around digital. So when I joined, that was one of the things that I know, I tried to lean into was, how do we sort of just up the game on the digital side? So, when it comes to, where PetValu is going is our stores are still our number one asset, like 600 locations across the country. Think of how convenient it is even from a digital perspective, because now you've got 600 pickup locations across the country.
Yeah.
So part of the outlook we really had was, let's look at what we have in market first and really figure out how do we optimize that. So the first opportunity really came through, which was how do we think about especially COVID helped with it, which is how do we just think about what's going on in the print side and where do we see that, and leaning more into the digital components of print, right? So using, the likes of a Flip or a Reebee to support us in terms of what we're trying to do to get some of those eyeballs going. We've leaned heavily into social. And part of the reason we've leaned heavily into social is that it's a fun brand. There's a lot that we can share, a lot
very visual. Dog pics are fun, right? Right now.
Great engagement, all of that, all of those activities are there. And kind of way you think about your portfolio of how you're designing it, still goes back to me in that traditional marketing funnel of you're trying to figure out what you want to put in the upper funnel and then how do you want to drive the lower funnel. And part of it was trying to really figure out how do we use some of that brand muscle where we can tell people what pet value is. And my biggest shock and surprise in being a non-pet owner, I'm not surprised by it, but there's 3 PetValu's in the neighborhood I live in. Why doesn't that brand sort of resonate as it pops off the store? Or why don't I recognize that brand as much as I would a Nike store or some other type of thing? So part of the thought process is that we've got these locations. How do we amplify and magnify this asset that we have and try to utilize it? So, we also tried to lean into certain campaigns. We did our first sort of broader campaign in June around Pride, and, very, very proud of the Pet Value team for what we put into it to support. We literally found a project that really was telling the story of how rescue dogs were helping the LGBTQ plus community. And we saw such a connection in that, and it resonated with all of our DPLs about like, what is the relationship between your pet to you? And that's where I think Pet Value is really leaning into is really trying to understand that relationship, help build that relationship, help, just show that relationship in many different ways and be there to help that journey kind of happen. So we leaned into that in a way that we were able to do a multimedia approach to it, in both in digital and print and in TV as well. So we've kind of tried to take that mix approach of like, let's think about things in the media mix, let's think about things in the upper funnel, let's think about things in the lower funnel, and let's try to put this together. And really, if you think about it, for 2021, we're still on the test and learn journey. We're trying to do a number of things to learn, figure things out, and really just have fun with it. Like, the team has really been told is, you have room to try things. You have room to, hit the reset button if you have to. You have time to figure out if this is going to work or something else is going to work. But let's try to really think about why we want to do it. And let's not just do it because we did it last year or the year before.
Your remit again is broad. So let's talk about stores. Not something you and I would talk about exactly, other than the intersection of online. But let's talk about stores out. I mean, as you said, 600 stores. It's a fantastic presence, and of course, stores are so important for a whole bunch of reasons. If you were standing in your typical store, today, tomorrow, or 5 years from today, what and how is Pet Value thinking about the role of their stores and what that experience looks like? Today I walk into some of the Pet Valu's and it's pretty functional. There's always a cat moving around or a dog, which is really cute. And then, I go get my product and it's sometimes the stores are tighter, smaller footprint. Do you see, and how do you see that evolving over the next couple of years?
Yeah. So, I think we like the format. Obviously we like to go with our smaller stores, make them just slightly bigger so we can get a little bit more product stored in there and do a little bit more of the services if we wanted to or had to. That's one of the challenges around curation is how much curation can you do? But, when I look at our stores, I think our stores do a great job. They're clean lines. They're stocked with product. They've got, what we consider the right product for our DPL. Really where I see the opportunity is more the intersection of the digital and the physical formatting and making that all more seamless and just more experiential. I think part of where we'd like to sort of see it also go is that the store can also become a social spot. It can be a place where, we obviously encourage you to bring your pets to our store. We love it, but how do we sort of see that happen more, let's call it that.
More organically, so to speak. Just
more organically, more naturally, having a little bit more of that. And, we have events that we run from a community perspective around national adoptions. How do we see that sort of just happening more organically, more naturally as we see it. And then there's stuff that I wish I could tell you that I'm working on, but I am governed by some privacy stuff that I'm not allowed to share. So when I can tell you that, I definitely will be the one to break the story here on some of the future stuff that we got too.
Well, fantastic. And it adds a whole new dynamic to your background, the franchisee dynamic, right? And I've been in franchisee organizations as well. And it's another stakeholder, such an important stakeholder to consider in everything you do, right?
But they're such a good stakeholder in so many ways. Because if you think, I go back to having worked in corporate, and many times in corporate, as you know, you're just downloading and it's being accepted. And maybe there's some grumbling and whatever not.
Yeah.
But in the franchise community, what's really cool about it is they're the owner operator and they are passionate and they care deeply. And something doesn't work for them, you will know about it. And it's really positive because I think that's a healthy tension in order to deliver a better result.
Yeah.
And they challenge it, which is really different from corporate, where I think, it's more of just, okay, we got it from HQ or head office.
Yeah.
Let's go and you see it in our stores too, right? You see that passion of the owner operator really coming through in our stores. In terms of the way they service our DPLs and the way they engage with our DPLs, and then also in the way that we see the recurring customer come back because they've created such a great service level and a great sort of experience that why would you go anywhere else?
Right. And I've always seen them exactly as you do, this a tremendous asset because not only are they in their community, they're an owner, right? So they're more invested than you can ever imagine. And their feedback is, managing programs and executing programs, it can be an amazing thing. Well, what's next for PetValu's? Not as if there's not a lot of next going on, but you've talked about a bunch of those things. I mean, we're heading into the next phase of the COVID era. I guess you kind of manage whether stores are open, stores are closed. How are you thinking about your team? Because I talked to a lot of retailers and executives about hybrid work and people who are working off-site and on-site. Is that something that occupies you and the executives' time a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, we need to. I mean, at the heart of our business is our people. So, this business doesn't exist if you don't have the people behind it all. And I think as we think about our teams, we are thinking about what's the right approach, what's the right way to go to market, and how do we align to not just being, like, we're going to do this because we think it's right, but also to support what we think is broadly happening in our industry as well. Mm-hmm. Part of that, is working with the Retail Council of Canada. Part of it is also understanding some of the stuff that's happening provincially and federally as we go through this. But as I think through, we're how we've handled the COVID pieces, it's been, I'm very impressed. Like even being onboarded during COVID, I would have thought would have been super difficult. But the team was hungry, was welcoming, was great in terms of just let's do it. Let's kind of figure out how we can sort of alter the course of our business, how we can try things, change things. So that's been really great. We've had some level of ability to have some hybrid meetings where, now that at least there's some level of vaccination and we're able to go back to an office format every so often. It's also helped because it's helped build some relationships. And what's really funny about it is, now, one of the things we've always known about is what people look like. But we actually don't know what people's height is anymore.
Yeah,
so short or tall, we have no idea because you sit behind a desk all day, right? So I think that's been a really inspiring thing is sort of meeting some of my team members of being like, oh, I thought you would be a lot shorter. Or I thought you'd be a lot taller. Those biases that are in our minds always, they play out.
Well, and you've always had a perspective around your teams to build agility into the team, and I think it's so necessary. I can see why you would be attracted. It's that, that friction or that finding that sweet spot between being well planned out and being agile. And I got to imagine being agile right now in these times is such a benefit, right?
Yeah, and I think agility is it's going to transcend COVID. I think marketers just need to be agile in general, and they need to think. I mean, the industry is moving fast, the technology is moving fast. And with that is a level of risk reward that you're always evaluating. And at the same time, I think agility is something that you really want to develop in your people and in your culture because it's the way you can go to market and take advantage of opportunities. Yeah, it's the way you can respond to market conditions. But it's very much a culture of how do we do it in a unified way. So it's not I'm just agile. It's the team can actually move with that mentality in mind.
And agility, if taken too far, can get a bit chaotic, right? So it's finding that sweet spot between
finding the balance, right?
Finding that balance.
Yeah.
Well,
but, I mean, that's the fun part of marketing, right? Like the fun part of marketing is you're trying to find the balance between fun and results, trying to balance the expectations of the business and the customer, and trying to really just try to drive, what I would call an experience that can transcend what the customer, or in our case, what the DPL wants, and ensure you deliver on it.
Right on. Well, Tanbir, so great catching up with you, and thanks so much for taking the opportunity to speak with me. Congratulations on the new gig and the expanded role. I can't imagine a better choice for PetValu's. So thanks so much, and I wish you continued success. And let's keep in touch and have a great rest of your day and a great run up to the rest of the year and the retail season.
Thanks, Michael. Super appreciated, and always honored to be part of your forum, and continue looking to support the Retail Council as well as you in the stuff going forward, and wish you only the most success as you go through this back half of the year too.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of The Voice of Retail. Be sure and follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy podcasts so you don't miss out on the latest episodes, industry news, and insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating review, as it really helps us grow so that we continue to get amazing guests onto the show. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of LeBlanc Company Inc. And if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at meleblanc.co. Until next time, stay safe, have a great week.